What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to another episode of the Forgotten Race Review. Today, at the request of one Samuel Thurman, we'll be covering the Suli, appearing in Pathfinder's Advanced Race Guide, with further supplements appearing in Blood of the Elements. If you have a race you'd like to see covered in this series, throw it in the comments, hit me up on any of my social media platforms, we'll throw it on the list. So today marks the end of our Divinity Original Sin 2 giveaway. Of course, I'm recording this prior to today's actual date, so I, unlike future Tommy who may be listening, has no idea who's won. However, the winner will be announced on Wednesday's video. Let me just go ahead and say in advance, congratulations to whoever's won our giveaway. This episode of the Forgotten Races Review was brought to you in part by the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Recently, those guys have been playing some Starfinder stuff. I don't know a whole lot about Starfinder, but what I do know is within like 5 minutes of their first episode, I witnessed somebody give somebody else an additional, at level 1, 46 points of damage as a standard action casting a spell on him. That much damage at first level definitely has my inner munchkin intrigued. I'm definitely going to finish the series out. You should too. Patronage is the #1 way right now to support any content creator on YouTube from anything across the entire world that is content creation. Of course, I don't ask for your money for nothing. In addition to that money helping me provide better quality videos, we also offer things like access to our private Discord, once a month chat where we help do anything from build your campaign to build a super optimized character to make your GM hate you, and everything in between. If patronage is something you might be interested in, the link is in the description. Now let's dive in. In Islamic and Arabian lore, a Jann is a primitive or transformed sort of jinn similar to how humans are related to apes. They're regarded as the most harmless class of these supernatural creatures, and also the Jann is identified as the father of all the jinn, and thus are regarded to have been the first jinn of all. In Pathfinder, a Suli or Suli Jann is the offspring of a human and a Jann. A Suli represents the mingling of all 4 elements and, for the most part, resemble humans. Without intense scrutiny, it's often impossible to differentiate a human from a Jann until adolescence, when the Suli begins to manifest his or her magical powers. Suli are generally tall and attractive. If you don't know what you're looking for, an adult Suli might simply appear to be a really beautiful human. The most obvious giveaway for these guys is the ability for them to sheath their limbs in elemental energy. They also are known for vibrantly colored eyes and brilliant bronze pigmentations. These guys don't always know what they are. When they reach puberty, they often discover their strange elemental powers on accident, sometimes in ways that can be frightening or confusing to the Suli and their family. Unlike the other geniekins, your Ifrits, Oriads, etc., whose unique features like, fire hair, provide a little bit of a hint as to where the geniekin can trace his or her bloodline, the signs of Johnny heritage can easily be misinterpreted. A lot of times these guys are just mistaken for sorcerers with something along the lines of an elemental bloodline. Pathfinder's Suli are predisposed towards pride and boastfulness, and many demonstrate competitive behavior amongst rival groups of the race. On Galarion, a Suli is much more common in the distant land of Kazmaron, to the east of Avestan. It's said that entire clans of Suli roam the windswept waste and other regions around and within the borders of the Padishah Empire of Kalesh, and in this land, as well as Kadira, the Suli are treated with varying degrees of fairness. The wandering tribes of Johnny will freely offer aid to a Suli, but will rarely invite such geniekin to join the tribe for longer than a night or two. Instead, the Jann encourage Sulis to interact with humans in the hopes that if they make good impressions in these realms, they might be able to soften the Keleshite stance on genie enslavement. The elemental planes are almost certainly at the heart of a Suli birth, but often Suli can also be born to parents who purposely sought to internalize elemental forces, think something along the lines of an elementalist wizard. A Suli is brawny and charming, but often slow-witted. These guys get a +2 to their strength and charisma, and a -2 to their intelligence. They're outsiders with the native subtype, size category medium, with a base speed of 30 feet. The Suli begins play speaking Common and 1 elemental language of their choice, that being Aquan, Orin, Ignan, or Terran. A Suli resists 5 points of damage from all 4 of the elements, and gets a +2 racial bonus on diplomacy and sense motive checks. Once per day as a swift action, a Suli can shroud their arms in acid, cold, electricity, or fire. This lasts for 1 round per level and allows the Suli's attacks with weapons in those hands up to and including actually attacking with those hands to do 1d6 points of damage of the energy type the Suli has cloaked their arms in. A Suli also has low light vision. A Suli can be played a lot of different ways. The buff to your strength and charisma makes me think something along the lines of a Blood Rager, or maybe even cut all ties with your Genie Blood and go Sorcerer into Dragon Disciple, pumping those 2 ability scores as high as we can. Resisting 5 points of damage from all 4 of the elements is pretty sweet. By that same token, in a low-level game, Elemental Assault can really carry its weight. Of course, as a Pathfinder campaign shrugs on into higher levels, most of the real scary stuff you're going to fight is going to resist pretty much all 4 of these elements. But in low-level play, when the given bad guys might only have 1 or 2 hit dice, an extra d6 can push us from an attack that does a moderate amount of damage and wounds a guy to an attack that moderately damages and wounds a guy and then they catch on fire and die. I don't often note these, but there's an alternate racial trait for the Suli called Energy Strike. If we choose to take Energy Strike, we choose 1 energy type. This changes our Elemental Assault to only do damage of that type, and we only gain resistance to that energy type, losing the resistances to the other 3, but we get extra abilities along with this. If we choose Acid when we move through difficult terrain related to earth and stone, we can move 5 feet of that terrain as if it were normal terrain. Choosing Fire lets us have a once-a-day ranged touch attack that allows us to do 1d6 points of fire damage with a range increment of 10 feet. Choosing Cold lets our Suli walk on water-based liquids as if using Water Walk, except instead of hovering, the Suli creates a temporary layer of ice that supports them, but immediately melts once they move away from it. If we choose Electricity, once per round as an immediate action, we can shock a creature that touches us or attacks us with a natural attack, unarmed strike, or metal melee weapon, doing 1d6 points of damage to anything that hits us. None of these really scream at me, hey, you need to play a Suli, except maybe if we're in like a Skull and Shackles and we know we're going to be on the water a lot, then okay, cool, choose Ice Walk and almost never have to make a swim check again. But again, in a low-level game, if we're only running like levels 1 to 5, all 4 of these are pretty strong. My recommendation is to play a Suli in a game that's a little more low-level. Of course, there's nothing saying you can't take a Suli from level 1 to level 20 plus, but low-level play, I think, is where these guys really shine. So what do you guys think? Have you ever played a Suli? Would you ever play a Suli? Ever GM'd for one? If so, you guys know the drill. I say it 3 times a week. Throw it in the comments. We'll keep the conversation going. If you guys like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode drops next Monday.